Hello and welcome to the Siebel CRM 23.7 update summary, the latest in our series of free monthly updates for Siebel professionals who stand out from the crowd. This video is brought to you by the Siebel Hub, the #1 resource for always up-to-date Siebel CRM training. The July 2023 release of Siebel CRM is a treasure trove of new features, enhancements, and bug fixes. Web Tools continues its journey to compatibility with Siebel tools and now sports predefined queries, favorites, the ability to set the tab order in form applets, and a new view to identify SIF attribute differences. The Siebel Inbound REST API for business objects, aka Data API, can now process hierarchical data. The Test Automation module received many small but interesting enhancements, namely dynamic data selection, notifications for text executions, and the ability to run batch executions on a specific Jenkins node or group of nodes. And that's not all. The Modular Deployment Engine, or MDE, has given up the habit of starting services when asked not to. The migration application supports pre-encryption of the table owner password. And finally, the version of Apache Tomcat shipped with Siebel CRM is raised to 9.0.74. That's a lot to explore, so let's dive in. If you missed the good old predefined queries feature in Siebel Web Tools, rejoice. In Siebel CRM 23.7 and higher, the well-known functionality has finally arrived in your favorite web IDE. Speaking of favorites, do you remember Siebel Tools bookmarks? Miss them in Web Tools? Well, mark July 2023 as the month where Siebel Web Tools learned this new trick. Developers can now mark records as favorites. And of course, there's a nice new view to find all your faves and drill down for super fast navigation. Another long-missed Siebel Tools classic is the ability of the applet layout editor to select form applet controls in a certain order and save that sequence as the tab order, so that users, when using the tab key on their keyboard, can jump between controls in that order. The final enhancement for Siebel Web Tools in 23.7 is a new view dubbed SIF Attribute Differences. This view is available in any open workspace that experienced an automated SIF import. The primary use case is the optional repository upgrade, which imports a substantial amount of repository changes through SIF files. But the feature also works when developers use the command line options for importing SIF files. The new SIF Attribute Differences view allows developers to inspect all changes made on the attribute, aka property, level, and by setting a flag to revert the changes to the pre-existing value. After clicking the Apply Changes button, a subsequent delivery into the parent integration or main workspace will honor the flagged records, and original property values will be preserved. Let's direct our attention to the REST API, which is a subject of constant evolution. In Siebel CRM 23.7 and higher, the Siebel Inbound REST API for business objects, or Data API, supports CRUD operations on object hierarchies. CRUD stands for Create, Read, Update, Delete. In the case of read, which translates to sending GET requests to the Siebel REST API in order to query records, a new query parameter named getChildren can be added with a value of all. When this parameter is present, the query results will not only include the primary records, as in previous versions, instead the full business object hierarchy will be followed down. So the response includes any instances of child, grandchild, or deeper level records. There's another new query parameter available, namely query hierarchy. Its value is an ISON string that defines the list of business components, their fields, and optional search and sort specification. This allows for a finer grain when querying hierarchical data, as integrators can specify exactly what they need, instead of having to retrieve and parse all children. In write operations, that is, create, update, or delete, the payload or body of the REST request must carry a valid hierarchy of data. For example, one or more accounts with their addresses and contacts. The insert, update, or delete operation will be carried out on all members of the hierarchy in a single request. Siebel test automation was greatly enhanced with the ability to record and playback test scripts back in Innovation Pack 2017. Since then, the module has received updates on a regular basis, and another set of enhancements arrives with the 23.7 update package. Datasets, introduced in Siebel 20.9, can now include a condition field which specifies, you guessed it, the condition if the respective record should be used in an iteration or not. The example shows a dataset with two records. The first record will be used if the variable named env has a value of dev. The second record will be used if its value is sit. At runtime or playback time, the test automation Java engine in DISA will evaluate the conditions and act accordingly. Another dataset-related enhancement is the ability to associate a dataset with a test set, instead of just individual test scripts. All test scripts within the set will then use that dataset, even if they have individual datasets assigned. The new notify flag in the test execution form can be set to receive notifications in the form of Siebel message broadcasts when the status of the test execution record changes, which is the case during a Jenkins build. Another new field in the same form, named Run Reference, enables test developers to assign a specific Jenkins node or a group of nodes by using the associated label as the field guide. A similar name parameter has been added to the Siebel Test Execution, or STE, plugin, which has to be present as well. With all these changes, make sure not only to install the latest version of DISA, Desktop Integration Siebel Agent, but also deploy the latest version of the STE plugin in Jenkins. The Modular Deployment Engine, MDE, got an update too. This fixes an issue where the installer restarts the Siebel services. That includes Tomcat application containers, gateway registry, and Siebel servers on the machine, even if post-install database update has just started, or even if it failed. This resulted in an unstable state of the enterprise, and administrators had to restart the services manually. With 23.7 and higher, the MDE has a new parameter in the form of a Restart Services flag. This flag is set to true by default, but can be set to false in the GUI or response file. When the flag is set to true, the installer will wait patiently for post-install database update to finish successfully before attempting the restart. When the flag is set to false, services will remain shut down until started manually. The final enhancement that we discussed today is the option to pre-encrypt the target database's table owner password for migrations that apply schema changes to the target database. The DBA can use the encrypt string executable to procure an encrypted version of the table owner password and pass it to the migration administrators. As such, this piece of highly sensitive information is secured and the migration can still be carried out. If a pre-encrypted password is used, migration admins must check the pre-encrypted flag in the GUI or set the PWD pre-encrypted argument to true when using the REST API. And there you have it. Siebel CRM 23.7 is a truly action-packed update package. Thanks for tuning in. Keep watching and check out the bonus track, How to Update or Upgrade to Siebel 23.7. Siebel 23 is off to a great start, and so is the Siebel Hub learning experience. Check out the updated Siebel Hub curriculum, including the Siebel 23 Plus workshop, which provides Siebel practitioners with all the information they need to work with the latest Siebel CRM updates. Go to siebelhub.com and start learning today.
Hi, it's Alex from the Siebel Hub, and today we are going to answer the old question: is it an upgrade or an update? So let's see. As of Siebel 23 and higher, you have upgrade or update pass depending on the version you're currently on. So if you have 7.5, 7.7, that's really old, that's 20 years and older, so you're in for a two-step upgrade according to the upgrade guide in Bookshelf. If you are slightly higher, 7.8 to 8.2, you still have to do a one-step full upgrade, and for both, you're still on high interactivity, on Internet Explorer, unbelievable, yes, you have to go to OpenUI as well. The two-step upgrade takes you to 8.1.1, and if you have that, or any other version up to IP16, you're in for what's known as an incremental repository merge, or IRM. So all of these are upgrades, and that means to go from these versions to the latest 20.3, this is a month-long project measured in person months or person years, and we're not here to cover all of it. You need to get professional help from consulting and Oracle to get your upgrade project on the way and get to the latest Siebel CRM. So if you already are on IP17 or anything higher than that, including 18, 19, 20, you name it, then we talk about updates. And an update is measured in person days. It's just a matter of a few days to get your environment from that older version to the latest 23.x or higher. So let's dive a little bit into the update paths that we have. So there are a few mandatory steps you have to take. You have to make sure you back up your environment database, then you run what's known as the Modular Deployment Engine, or MDE, which does all the binary stuff really. And then you run the post-install database update. This is mandatory, and it updates your database. That's why I take a backup with schema, seed data, and manifest data that brings in, well, the mandatory stuff that Oracle has developed since your last version. Now there are a few optional steps as well, depending on your implementation, such as running the repository upgrade that you decide upon information from Oracle in the release notes or bookshelf, and it runs only on the development environment and brings new, well, repository stuff into your repository along with schema, seed data, and manifest. If you have to follow some configuration instructions from Oracle, you also do that in the DR environment. In any environment, there could be any known issues that you need to fix, and administrative changes might also be on your menu. So let's look at the development update in greater detail. You start with backing up your environment and database. Make sure you have a safe point to go back to. You shut down the software on that machine, Siebel server, gateway, or AI, and then you run the MDE, typically on the first Siebel server, because that's where the post-install database update runs as well. It has to be run once per database, and if that doesn't complete successfully, you have to rinse and repeat until that's successful. Then you run the MDE to update any other Siebel software, any other Siebel servers, gateways, AIs, and don't forget Siebel tools or developer web client or mobile web client. Then it's time to start up that development enterprise, so you can decide if you have a repository upgrade. Now let's do the fast track. Let's say, no, we don't need a repository upgrade. We have no configuration instructions, no administrative changes. That will mean we're done with the development update. But there might be just a longer path. So when you have decided to run the repository upgrade, you of course have to run it, and successfully so. If there are any config instructions, that's developer work in web tools too, and that has to be tested and delivered. Now, administrative changes depend on what version you are, what features you're using. So let's say you have some, and then you of course have to implement them. And now we're done. Now let's take a look at test or production or RR environments. We start with a backup, shut down the software, run the modular deployment engine in update mode on the first Siebel server to get that post-install database update out of the way, and then we update any other instances of Siebel CRM that you have in that environment. Start up the environment. If there have been no repository changes, and no administrative changes to do, we are done. Now, the longer path is, of course, if you had repository changes, you need to go and fire up that migration application to migrate the repository, and don't forget the CData changes from the development to the RR environment. Make sure you test that thoroughly, and if you have any administrative changes, depending on your implementation, you have to implement those. And then we're done with the update of a test or production environment.